Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Stiles. If I haven't met you yet, I am the state training coordinator at the Nebraska Public Health Laboratories. And so what we'll do today is really talk about your transport of Category B, which has been so important these last couple of years with COVID, being pandemic, and now monkeypox becoming quite an issue in public health. So I want you to feel comfortable with what you are transporting for us, and as well want you to feel safe. All right. So getting started, these are just a couple of objectives that I'll go through today. I'll let you read those, but it is imperative that you understand what Category B is. I'll even tell you the difference of Category A and B are so that you recognize the difference. We're actually going to ask you to evaluate the boxes, and I'll tell you also why. And last but not least, what to do if there's a spill, which hopefully will never happen. So the reason shipping is so important for not only laboratory, but for you as well, is because it's federal law. Again, we want to make sure that there are no leaks, and so and to be sure it is delivered appropriately. And in order to do that, we need to make sure the laboratory needs to make sure that we properly label it, that we have the right documents together, and if there is a spill, how to clean up. It is important to remember that if the laboratory doesn't do it correctly, that there could be penalties, legal penalties. And that's not to say that all of the responsibility is on the shipper, which DOT does say, but I do feel that it is important that the courier knows what they're picking up, and we'll go on. So there's any questions at this point?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. There's really only two types of hazardous materials. Sometimes they're called dangerous goods, but they would be classified as Class 6, which is your infectious substances, and Class 9, which is your dry ice, which sometimes I know you do work with. As far as Class 6, underneath Class 6 fits our Category A and Category B, each called a little bit different. Category A as infectious substances, which I do have a separate class for. If you have not taken that class, you should not accept this kind of label. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Category B is the other type of division point 6.2 that we do transport. And we'll talk a little bit about regulated waste too. Regulated waste is something that I don't believe you have the license for. Is that correct, Nicole?
I don't think so, actually.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And you will have clients that will ask you to take this with you and throw it away at the hospital, and that's not acceptable to do. You cannot transport anything like a sharps container, a red bag, because these things require a different training, a different licensure, and don't be afraid to say no if they ask you. So, go ahead.
We have a quick question. So the red bags, if it's picking up so we have a client that uses those red bags just to pick up pumps for patients that interfere, infuse into their body. What does the red bag mean? in general?
The red bags mean that there's something infectious. So to be honest with you, let's go back. That red bag, if it has this symbol on it, that means it's a biohazard. So that's probably not the right type of bag to use. I'm really glad you asked that. Now, if it's a red bag that doesn't have anything on it, or maybe a different symbol, like it's a gas or something like that, maybe okay. You should probably ask them. But if they have a biohazard symbol on it, I would recommend talking to them and say they really need to use something differently, because that's misrepresenting what's inside.
Okay, because that's definitely what those
Yeah,
bags
good question.
look like.
And
We'll talk to the client.
anybody else, if you have a question, don't hesitate to stop me while I'm speaking. All right, so you, believe it or not, are a hazmat employee, just like I am, and anybody in the laboratory. So anyone that affects transport, we in the laboratory classify, we say if it's a category A or B. We prepare the shipping papers, we select the packaging materials, and we fill out all the packaging itself, and we use the right labels. Now, we provide for you, the courier, what we call emergency response info. Now, that is essentially all of what the laboratory does. But the very bottom one, of course, is your responsibility to transport hazmat materials in commerce, meaning that it's being transported for pay. Now, we could have situations where a government courier, the sheriff, one of my laboratorians may take it to a different laboratory. And that is not in commerce. That is kind of a different classification because they are not doing it for pay. We have a contract with you to transport, and therefore you are a hazardous materials employee. And congratulations. So the responsibilities, as I said, of the laboratory, we are called the shipper. You're not the shippers. I think a lot of people think that the courier is the shipper, and the terminology is not correct in that matter. The shipper is the person who actually classifies it into category A or B, or possibly even exempt, and packages it correctly, adds the right refrigerant if it's not ambient, and then prepares all the paperwork. You, as a courier, these are your responsibilities to evaluate that package that's been offered to you, or offered is a term that the DOT people like to use. I guess I was confused with it at first, but I figured out that it's what's given to you. So if it's offered to you, it's given to you. So you have to evaluate that package. You have to evaluate if that package is correct. If it is not correct, you have the right to reject. And I will go into that shortly. You then, if it is correctly labeled, packaged, and such, you will then transport it by motor vehicle. There's other rules for by air and by other means, what they call water vessel or whatever, but I don't think here in Nebraska we do that. And I also want you to know that you're one of the only what we call exclusive couriers in Nebraska. That means you don't carry anything else. You carry only medical items. It doesn't have to be necessarily specimens. It could be things that you transport for pharmacy, or things that you need to give to patients, but it's all medically involved. And you also have to know what the protocol is in case there is a leak or some sort of accident. So this private courier This is the ruling. It is actually a code of federal regulation written by our federal government to say that you can transport anything other than category A that contains a patient specimen. So you cannot do any cultures. If you ever have a culture, you'll know by the fact that it's a plate or a tube, or not a tube, what am I trying to say? It might be something that looks different than what you're used to. And those types of things should not be transported just in a bio bag. So what I'm trying to say is that because you're a private or contracted courier, you have the luxury of picking up specimens, even category B specimens that are in just a biohazard bag. And I think that you're used to doing that. That's typically years past what everybody's done. But the DOT is getting very picky. And if you're not a contracted or private courier or exclusive courier, the things that may be infectious have to be in category A or B boxes. Well, category A always has to be in a box, but category B, because you're an exclusive private courier, not necessarily needs to be, and you can accept it just as a biohazard bag. All right, so exclusive use. What again I talked about is just medically related. So it could be medical records, it could be x-rays, it could be our specimen cultures, it could be culture plates. I'll show you what that might look like. But what an exclusive courier does not do is transport patients. They literally cannot do that. They cannot transport other persons. Believe it or not, you can use the cab the laboratory can call a cab to get a specimen, but they cannot do it just in a biohazard bag. They can do it if they have a category B box, and they're not allowed to do category A. Contracted exclusive motor use does not qualify if they have non-medical related items, if they have food with them. And I know that that's something that is probably something you don't like, in the fact that you may eat while you're driving, you're not taking time to do dinner or whatever. And to be honest with you, as an exclusive courier, you cannot do that. You should probably step outside your vehicle momentarily to eat if necessary, or just wait until you can take a lunch break. Same with animals. I know that we have couriers in the state of Nebraska who take their dogs with them. And as much as I love animals, I know that would be a wonderful thing to do. But what happens if that animal gets into some of these specimens? It would be heartbreaking. So those are not allowed. Business documents, bank bags, US mail, newspapers, it simply cannot be in your vehicle. So please remember that you are an exclusive vehicle, at least when you are transporting these types of specimens, which I suspect you normally are. So what do I do to train a courier as well as our laboratory? We go through basic general awareness. What's the difference between category A and B and exempt? We want to be function specific. So like my laboratorians, since they do classify, meaning they call it either category A or B, you don't have to do that. So I will not be training you on classification, but however, my laboratory, it's function specific training for them to train them how to classify. And all of us do safety training, which is very important. And I know that you as a courier have probably gone through that before. These are some of the things as far as general awareness, I really want you to be aware of. First and foremost, I think in this day and age of some of the nasty infectious substances we have out there, do not handle specimen bags with your bare hands. I know that everybody doesn't like to take the time to put gloves on, and I understand that process. If it could be just something as simple as grabbing a paper towel or I would say something more sturdy than a Kleenex, a wet wipe or something like that, where you can just simply grab it. And I've got some pictures of that. Because, and you may say, yes, but I use hand gel of some sort. When I pick up the specimens. But to be honest with you, from the time you're picking up that specimen and then taking it to your car, how many doorknobs have you touched? How many people have you talked to? It's important that you take a little cooler in with you, that you take it from the refrigerator or wherever they leave those specimens for you, that you put it into the cooler and then immediately wash and gel your hands. But even if you're gelling your hands, please do use something to protect your hands. You should not be picking up specimens with bare hands. Observe each package for correct labels. Make sure that they're not leaking. If they are leaking, you can reject them. I'm sure we've all seen the types of specimens in the bags where the urine is like totally outside the container. Just remember that if you have cold packs or dry ice, that you have like something around them to protect them from the dry ice, even if it's just bubble wrap, to make sure they aren't touching it directly. But a lot of times you'll find that specimens already have some sort of gauze or paper towel or some absorbent in their bag. So hopefully that will be sufficient. Or just put a layer of bubble wrap beside it or above it, and then put your specimens. Okay, drop boxes are not recommended. I know that you do work with drop boxes. The reason we're very concerned about that is especially like the temperatures today. We fear that they're warming up. Maybe the site, the client does put an ice pack with it or something like that. If at all possible, you could pick it up before closing and pick it up from the particular client. The other problem with boxes is if it's leaking, you can't really reject that specimen, and that is problematic too. So please do work out some sort of system if you do have drop boxes, such that maybe somebody's there, or you can arrange something differently, a phone number you can call if they're leaking specimens. So do not accept leaking specimens. Do not accept specimens without proper labels. Do not accept specimens with incomplete paperwork, even for category B.
We got a question.
Yes.
So one company that we work with, we've had this issue where a driver called me and said there's a leaky urine in the lockbox, and we called the client and they said, can the driver get gloves and pick it up? And who do we call to, like, I don't know, I guess I could ask Jeff who we need to call.
Yeah, you actually, have Nicole. Unfortunately, that might be a responsibility of yours or Jeff, but I do recommend that either of you would call that clinic, or even call an after hours. You should arrange for that phone number with a nurse manager Ask for the nurse manager's phone number so that you can contact them even after hours. But no, don't accept that. That's not acceptable. Not acceptable.
That's
So
good to know. Yeah,
uh,
because it was actually a lab that told us to go ahead.
that's awful. That is just awful. No, don't accept that. You may also have discussion with them afterwards that they're using the wrong type of specimens. If they're maybe that not the wrong type of specimen, I'm sorry, the specimen container, that particular container might have real problems in transport. It might be okay just to get it to the lab, but if you're doing a lot of transporting across the state, it might not be good. That they should try a different container that's not screw top, maybe it has a better rubber top on it or something. And there are such things for urines. They need to deal with that problem. It's not your problem. Don't let them make it your problem.
Okay. Good.
Yep. Be firm. Be firm.
Oh, you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's blood all in the bottom.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So here's an example of how I talked about either using glove or using some sort of a wet wipe or paper towel or something to transport or to pick up the specimen. And just to let you know that really all specimens should, even exempt specimens, which we'll mention here in a moment, but triple packaging is required for everything. But you are the persons who do the final packaging. So a patient specimen is considered the primary container. It's supposed to be watertight, leak proof. That's their responsibility, and they put it in a biohazard bag, which is a secondary container of some sort. And sometimes you can have multiple secondary containers, like 2 bags or a bag and an envelope or something like that. And it's supposed to have absorbent material in it, so you can see that absorbent material. Where's my cursor? Right here, if you can see my cursor. Here's the specimen itself. And you are the ones that grab this bag and then go ahead and put it in your cooler, or with the category A's and B's, if they do package it, it would be in an outer box. And that's what we call our outer packaging. That contains all the labels. It contains suitable cushioning material so things don't like shift during transport. Or a spill for that matter. And it also may contain some sort of insulation that would allow it to stay cold, say for instance, dry ice or gel packs or something. Now you're not allowed to get into that package, which is fine. You don't want to get into that package, but it is the shipper, the laboratory's responsibility to seriously make sure that that's correct. All right. Now, the other thing too I wanted to really cover is what the definition is between like a culture and a patient specimen. To the general public, it really doesn't, there's no difference. But cultures are things that we do in our microbiology lab. It's where the bacteria are intentionally grown into colonies, as we call it, and a specimen may be placed in a culture media. I don't think I have one here now to show you. I will this afternoon. And it might even be a slant. And unfortunately, it says do not ship fragile culture plates, but sometimes we're forced to. And that's when they don't have time to culture, and it's a really important organism. We don't let them, the labs, even take the time. We ask them to carry those culture plates. But you also will get a bag of culture plates, and it's these little round disc-like things, and they're stacked, and that is something that is not supposed to be transported just by themselves. But because you are an exclusive courier, you are allowed to take them in a bag and put them in an ambient cooler. Doesn't need to be refrigerated or frozen. Now, that is different than patient specimens. Specimens are things that are taken directly from humans, like blood, sputum, urine, biopsies, even the swabs that they take and they stick in your mouth, or the nasal pharyngeal swab they took during COVID. They sometimes even send body parts through special couriers. I don't know if you've ever, and that's allowable. Hopefully you've never had to experience that, though. Years ago, they used to call it diagnostic specimens, but that's a very old term. If you see that written on something that's not correct, you should not accept it. It's no longer acceptable. What the tricky thing is sometimes, maybe my next slide shows it. Oh yeah, so here's more examples. Patient specimens could be just a plain blood tube, or it could be a urine cup, and it might be not be urine. It could be body fluids that are put into that. Here is a culture plate. That is where you can see actual growth in little dots, and those are the organisms that have grown up. Or sometimes these what we call slants, and the organism grows on that. So you could potentially transport those. Now, a majority of things you get are what are called exempt. Exempt are things that do not have to be put in a category A or category B box. They can just be handed over in a biohazard bag. And the reason they're exempt is because they have minimum likelihood that pathogens are present. And that gets sticky too, because you would not have to be the judge of that. That's the laboratory's job. You just need to know if they are sending by category A or category B.
So Karen, can I
yes.
interrupt for a second? I'm curious, so are we allowed just to use our lab bag for the specimens that you're talking about, or do you want them in special boxes like we do category A?
Say that again.
Okay, so like for monkeypox and things like that, are we supposed to be using a box for category B for those?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so where can we?
Well, okay, let's talk about this, because thank you, that's been very, very controversial. Because you are exclusive, you can just take the specimens in a biohazard bag because you're exclusive. But all my other couriers out there, they are not exclusive. I do not consider them exclusive because they don't have the proper training. They or they don't carry the liability to transport more dangerous items. So we and some of them, I know that they transport patients, or they transport their grandchildren, or they eat in the car. So we have considered them non-exclusive. So you are the only ones that can carry category B just in biohazard bags. Now, the reason we're really putting pressure on people to put things in the category B bags is because DOT, when COVID happened, they, about 2 years ago, put out a huge warning that, and they didn't specify between exclusive and non-exclusive. They said that all COVID specimens have to be in properly labeled boxes. And I think they haven't put that out yet for monkeypox, but I think it would be something very similar. So we're letting labs, I guess let's put it this way, because they don't know very well if their couriers are exclusive or not. We are pushing laboratories more and more to put COVID and monkeypox into boxes. So yes, you might get boxes. We ask that you transport category B boxes. So
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so now we can transport anything but COVID and monkeypox in our lab bag, in just a regular biohazard bag.
actually, no, because you are exclusive.
Okay, gotcha. Now I understand. Okay.
Yes, because you're exclusive, those category B boxes are no longer regulated.
Okay.
And therefore you're allowed, there are some clinics,
Oh.
like our specialty clinics, things like that,
Yeah.
that you're allowed to pick up just
Okay.
biohazard bags.
Okay. And then after this meeting, I don't want to throw everybody off subject, but I have a question about the category A when we're done.
Okay, yeah, I won't talk about that because I usually handle that in a different
Right.
class, and only those that have gone through training should accept a category A box. They'll probably try it on any of you guys, but if you haven't had the training.
No.
So that, unfortunately, if you get a call for category A, hopefully number one, they tell you it's a category A, and number two, that your dispatchers know to send out just those people that have been trained for category A.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So the thing with specimens is that sometimes it can be real iffy. I mean, a urine, you'll hear people say, well, I sent a urine culture, but what they're saying is a urine specimen that they want culture done on. And so even if it's a urine specimen that they want a culture on, it has the likelihood that it has infectious substances in it. Now, on the other hand, if they're sending a urine for chemistry test or hemo, which you don't know, but this is something that the laboratory needs to find out, and they will have to determine if it's exempt or if it's category A or B, and they also have to know how to ship with an exempt courier versus if it's a not exempt courier. I mean, exclusive courier versus a non-exclusive courier. So I know that's really confusing. I guess the point is to say that really you have to trust the laboratorian, but you have to be somewhat guided in that to know what you're accepting. But these all are things that are not regulated. And like I said, chemistry test, fixed specimens like pathology tissue, dried blood spots, so anything, even transfusion or transplantation, you can transport as exempt. Even things in formalin, which I know you do get sometimes, is exempt. All right. There's more examples, again, for those chemistry tests. So I won't go through it anymore, but just know what exempt means versus category A and B. So now I want you to know what category A just looks like. So you'll see this box, or a box with this sign. It says 6 on the bottom, infectious substances. In case of damage or leak, immediately notify public health authority. But what don't you see? You don't see that it's labeled as a category A. You might have a sign on the other side that says, see if I can find it. No, I have to go back. Whoops, sorry. That might say 2814, UN 2814, affecting, infectious substance affecting humans. But you don't see that it says category A, but you know that it's a category A because of this particular symbol. In case of damage, you would never touch it. You would immediately call us. Okay, so what what category B, did I just skip that? So category B is going to look like this, UN 3373, but guess what? It does have category B listed under that. It does say biological substance, not diagnostic specimen. So the reason it's labeled category B is different than category A. Category A usually is something that can cause permanent disability. So anything that is not described as a category A usually fits in this category B, meaning that it's not, it doesn't cause permanent disability or life-threatening, but it might still make you sick. So that's why category B has to be handled gingerly. The labels we try to put the label, these kind of labels, on the same side as the names of the shipper and the what consignee or consignee, which really is just the recipient who you're sending it to or who you're delivering it to. And unfortunately, that doesn't always work. We have boxes that are very small and they look like this. So there's that label, but the address might be on the other side or on the top. So they just like it that way if the box is big enough. And yeah, okay. So then the other side of packaging and transporting. So when it's transported by exclusive ground courier, just know that they should have that combination of packaging, primary in a biohazard bag, and that has absorbent material with it, and it's closed, sealed somehow. Now the outer container, you guys have what we call coolers. They're usually soft-sided. I don't think many couriers use the hard-sided. Nicole, I don't know. Do you have any hard-sided? Yeah, okay. But either one of those are sufficient for exempt or for you for category B because you are an exclusive courier. But it needs to be secure, and there are quantity limits. I won't go through those. Usually anything from a laboratory you would not have to worry about. They are not going to max out their limits. Again, don't touch those bio bags. The other thing I want to go through as far as a danger is dry ice. I know it's fun to play with and fun to see the smoke, but it is a danger that it can burn you. And so believe it or not, dry ice is a dangerous good, but it's not recognized by DOT when it's transported in a motor vehicle. So that means that you're not really regulated as to how much dry ice you use, whereas the airports, the airplanes, they have to know exactly how much dry ice you've got in each package. Dry ice does change from that solid straight to a gas. It does not have a liquid medium. intermediate, what do you call it, material in between, it immediately off gases. So it takes heat from its surroundings and goes immediately to gas. So that's why it's so important that you make sure that it's in just some sort of styrofoam or container. Even these liners, they somewhat, I can't say leak, but they do allow gases to permeate through them. And it's important to know that CO2 gas is heavier than air. So if you've got it in the backseat of your car, it could suffocate, you know, if you've got your windows closed, but that's a lot of dry ice. So it's just recommended that when you are transporting dry ice, that you keep your windows slightly ventilated or take breaks or something like that. So there are some containers that are not built for transport. If it's strictly enclosed or tightly enclosed, it can blow up because it builds up pressure in that container. So again, we don't want that to happen on your watch. All right. Packages can be reused, but boy, if it looks like there's big holes in it, or it looks like it's contaminated, you can reject that specimen for that very reason. Paperwork, the one thing I want to really mention, because if somebody tries to offer you a category A, and I mean, you mostly do category B, but I just want you to know the importance of category A, and you recognize that symbol, that if you're not trained, you can reject that specimen. But also if specimens are leaking, not only for category A, but for category B, that if any of these conditions are not met to the slightest degree, they can be rejected and returned for transport, just like FedEx does. We've had packages that come right back to us because they're not labeled correctly. And the reason is because that paperwork that goes with category A is what's called the shipper's declaration. It is a legal document between the shipper and carrier, and therefore it must be accurate and legal. And if anything is not right, the courier or carrier does have the ability to reject. So that's why some of them, like FedEx, are very picky about it, but you can be picky too. All right, but this is mainly what you'll see is a category B paperwork. It kind of looks like this. Sometimes I try to highlight it in yellow simply because I'm trying to get them to fill it out correctly. But it's not necessarily required by DOT, but we highly recommend all of our laboratories to fill this out. And it's because we need this list of contents, and we ask them to put it on the outside of the box if they are putting it into a category B box. So the other thing I really want to cover in the remaining time is security awareness. This is very important for you. I suspect you may have had some training, but I think that in the laboratory world, we don't think about this very much, and we want you also to be safe. Be aware of your surroundings. Most of our laboratories are locked up. We have locked doors, things like that. Specimens should not be put outside of those locked doors. Hopefully you've got access through those locked doors, that you can pick up specimens. If they're being left outside in a hallway, that package is not secure. And you could probably call me on that one, and I would talk to that laboratory or that client. So you need to also be aware of your surroundings. Report anybody that's following you or that looks suspicious. I mean, if they're kind of snooping in your car, definitely be concerned. Call your manager, call Nicole. I think it's very important. Maintain possession of the specimen coolers at all times, or at least keep locked up if necessary. Don't go have dinner and leave your car door open. We have had packages that were stolen. We have no idea why they wanted them. Maybe they just tossed them in a ditch, but still, this is patient information with it, and it is a HIPAA issue. Deliver directly to the person listed if you can. You know, in good time frame. If they're asking for it as a stat, please make sure that it is delivered immediately. Do not stop for other personal reasons. I know it's so tempting to stop at a drugstore and pick up your drugs, but it's just something you don't want to mix and match. Because this is important work that you are doing for us. Do not keep overnight unless authorized to do so. I have had people say that they were not able to make it to Lincoln, but they've got Lincoln specimens. And so as long as we know that, and that you keep it locked up, it's probably okay. But talk to somebody if you have that issue and need to keep anything overnight. Otherwise, please try to deliver before your shift is over. Report any potential safety issues immediately to your manager. It's just so important. All right. If there is an accident with especially category A, but I know that we would like to make sure that each of our couriers have what's called emergency response information. And that goes even for category B. It's called the Guide 158. And on it is written what to do in a spill or a leak. And to be honest with you, we don't want you to touch it at all. We want you simply to call our emergency pager. And then from there, take instructions from us. Most likely we will have somebody come out and clean up for you. So you may have, if it actually happens, you may have to call your manager, say that I've got other packages here. What do I do? But you know, if those packages look like they might be affected by the leak, and you might not want to deliver those either, but talk to your manager first and then give us a call on our pager. We will answer that pager within minutes at all times. I know that you all have emergency response kits, what we would call, I don't know, do you go by a different name, Nicole? Safety kit?
We just have spill kits.
Spill kits, thank you. Yep, that's the good one. Yes, I mean, we might have you use this. I wouldn't use it until you've actually talked to us. But if it's a category B, we might just have you pour bleach on it or something like that. But we would also have to have you dressed up in personal protective equipment, which more than likely we won't ask you to do, but it just depends upon the situation. So really make sure you have this form in your, and I don't know, Nicole, it's been a long time since we've done that. So we all have to make sure that each of the couriers carry that in this form with them in the front seat with them, so they know at all times what to do. We could maybe laminate it and have them place it with all their important paperwork. So, yeah. I'll let you read through this. This just you know, it's stuff that makes sense. You know, don't walk through the spill. Really just call us. All right. So I have a couple of, what would you call it, visual aids for all of you that I know we've handed out in the past. I will do so again. I'll make sure that Nicole hands them out to you. If you only do category B, this is the only checklist you'll need. Maybe if you carry dry ice, you'll have to do this one too. But it is something that I want you to go through each one. If you pick up even a category B box, or even culture plates or something, you need to make sure that whatever paperwork comes with it, it's got to have who it goes to. So the complete shipper's address. And what does that mean? It's it comes with a name, so you need to know who to deliver it to. Sometimes it might only say microbiology lab, so it's general, but you need to have usually a name or a specific lab or room. Their phone number has to be on there, because if you have problems in transport, you can call them. And then of course the complete address, suite, if there's a suite included, or room number, city, state, zip, all have to be on there. Even if you're delivering from one place in Omaha to the next place, or one place in Lincoln to the next, you still have to have all that information on. And if they don't, you can reject those specimens, because they know that is a DOT requirement, and it's also Nebraska state law. They have to have it. So we've got a lot of reasons to reject those specimens. If you do carry dry ice, just recognize this symbol. And also this symbol should have how much weight. The weight's not really important to you, but it is UN 2814. So you know it's a hazard. These are kind of picky points. That there's no horizontal line just means it's an old label. Make sure that the kilograms is written there. And the weight limits, I guess, are not as important for you. So that's all I have. I want to once again to stress that if you have a situation where you have a spill, you don't call Ghostbusters, you call that 1-800 number, and we should have that pager 1-800 number on that paperwork that we'll be giving you right there. It will look exactly like this, and that's who you want to contact. And there's our phone number again to call. And this is more for laboratory if they need any assistance. So with that, I thought I would take just a moment and let me stop sharing. But I want to just take a minute and ask you two if you could help me out and tell me what's wrong with these boxes, just to show you. Now, I understand this is a category A, but and because it does have this label, but let's just pretend it's a category B, and they have given you a box. Can you, if you can see that, that looks like this. Can you see this?
There's
There's no address.
So the to and from, it says from Seward Hospital to Nebraska. What?
Out Nebraska one's crossed out too.
Yeah, it is. And oh yeah, Nebraska Lab Link, which is a lab that no longer exists. So what's wrong with that box? Do you accept it or not?
Everything.
No.
Everything's wrong with
It's
that.
damaged.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't have the proper names. It doesn't have the proper label if you're trained in category A, because it's an old label. And you know, that's just pretty common sense. Now here's another one. Yes, this is a category A. I should have brought more category B boxes. But if you look closely, okay, that it says it just infectious substances. It doesn't say category A on it or not. But look what they did. If you can see this, they wrote on a UN 3373 category B, kind of torn apart now too. But obviously there's some discrepancies from the labels. So you know that those are wrong too, right? Now there will be times where boxes will be, they look different. They can be brown, they can be white. The color is not specific. You can get very, very small ones, which we're trying to help you since there's going to be more boxes transported. We're trying to keep our boxes small. Hold on, let me grab one of these that I can hardly reach here. This is pretty small, but you know, it's probably the kind that you would like. This is a different lab than us, but this is more transportable for you, especially if you have a small car. So if you have suggestions or notice problems with boxes, please let us know, because it's tough. It's these laboratories, we even try to provide them boxes. Most states don't even do that. Most states literally ask them to, you know, purchase their own products.
So question, if we ever pick up a box, do you want us to transport it in our lab bag, put the box in the lab bag, or is it okay to walk through the hospital with just the box?
So yeah, you do not need to put them in their your soft-sided or even that hard-sided cooler. You don't have to do that because this is all self-contained.
Yeah.
If it needs to be refrigerated, they are going to refrigerate it inside this box. If it has to be frozen, that's going to have dry ice in this box, probably not a box this small. But so you don't have to worry about the temperature on them. So you do not put them in your boxes. In fact, even category A, you learn that you have to keep them separate from even all your exempt and category B stuff. Does that make sense? That's a very good question.
Yes, ma'am, that makes sense.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
All right.
No,
All right. Well,
maybe.
that's all I have. And is certainly make notes as you're out in the field. If you have interesting stories to share, I'd love to hear them, because they make great teaching tools as well. Write them down so you don't forget them. So
Nicole has one.
yes.
Oh gosh.
She found a sample. She found a sample. It wasn't ours.
Oh.
She found a sample in a grocery store parking lot, and it happened to be feces, and somebody ran it over.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
It happened to be, oh my,
Yeah.
I not that you should pick it up or anything, but if you
No.
could take pictures of it, I think that should be reported to the appropriate shipper if you can see that information. But a lot of times you probably can't. Maybe all you can see is the patient name or something, but that's a HIPAA non-compliant problem. So once again, that's why our couriers need to be so careful, especially when they're dealing with, you know, things that are truly category B, but just put in biohazard bags. And that's why you go through that extra training, so that, you know, specimens, you have to be careful with specimens. I would hope, do you work with lists, some sort of a batch list where, you know, you have 30 specimens and you give it to somebody? They probably go through all 30 in the lab, but you don't necessarily make sure you transport all 30, right?
Correct. So it depends on the, like, we do try to hold that accountability just in our app, but we don't know what to expect to pick up. So once we pick up, we usually count and then deliver the same number.
Okay, so I have a question, because the health fairs that I picked up, or they have
And then we also, like,
bags massive,
if
they're full.
the drivers
I
cannot
don't take it.
have it in
No.
a lab bag,
You
they
can
are
even just
not
have
allowed to
field.
carry,
Right, use
pick
what
up,
they have.
deliver anything with that or tow.
So if you're talking about health fairs, a lot of times those are exempt specimens. They're not there. They might be for cholesterol, or they might be chemistry tests, or they're dried blood spots or something like that. So that kind of fits into that exempt list that I showed you. And it could even be a urine for insurance purposes, or a urine from a routine doctor's office visit or something like that. So you could be transporting things like that, but they're probably exempt from
Okay.
any health fair or anything like that. But still, it's got patient information, so you have to be careful of those just as well. I didn't hear all your questions, though, if you had any others.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day. And I do think that we'll maybe give you a couple more on paper of what's wrong with this box. And that will be your test for this training. We'll try to do it, the trainings once a year. It's just a good review. So good to meet you all, and thank you for the great work you do for us. I think you're as important as any laboratorian there, because you are the ones who get those specimens back and forth on a timely basis. So we appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye for now.
Bye, Karen.
So I'll hang on for that category A if you want.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Who's doing category?
So, my question is, we ran into a situation, I think you were sick, and I was, they
Yes.
called in for the category A. They didn't have a box. Well, then it turned out it'd be a category B. I believe it's probably pretty important for us to at least have a couple boxes in the office in case we run into a situation
Okay.
to where it is an actual category A specimen. The client doesn't have any box or paperwork or anything. At least then the driver
Yes.
can transport that to them. They can fill the paperwork out and get it ready. At least it wouldn't be just dead in the water.
No, I think that is a good point. So I heard about that. Yes, I actually was hospitalized this year. And I think this happened at Children's, right? And it was one of our first monkeypoxes. And originally monkeypox and most other strains of monkeypox are considered category A. Heavens forbid we ever have to deal with one of the other monkeypoxes. But this particular monkeypox is not as dangerous. It's not as life-threatening. And so CDC, thankfully, talked the DOT, convinced the DOT to move them to a category B. But in that time that you were transporting, it was a category A. So that really, they would have had to do a category A. And they should have known better. And I hope, and I am very glad to this day that you guys stuck to your guns and did not accept that specimen.
I think we might be talking about a different pickup. This
Oh.
one was over off of Dodge Street, and it happened to be the very same day that they changed it from category A to category B.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the driver.
Oh.
And at first I told them, no, I can't accept it. They brought it out just in a bag. The lady had a mask on, gloves on.
Yes.
And then, it was changed to a B, which was okay with me. But how do we know exactly which monkeypox that they're talking about? Because certain ones from certain parts of Africa is a category A, and certain parts is category B. And the nurse explained to me they don't even know where she got it from because she's a transient.
Right.
So That made
So-
me very, very
Yeah.
nervous.
Yeah. If you have any questions, I think you could call our, either me or that pager number of ours. I would do that, number one. And number two, you can feel safe. That's the only reason we're telling oh, first of all, I guess you have to somewhat assume that they're packaging correctly. I'm glad you're questioning it. But the reason that the shippers can feel confident in calling it category B, because it's the only clade we have seen in the United States. Is this one particular, well, clade or strain or whatever. So that's why the DOT said, yes, you can call it a category B. The minute anything else shows up in the United States, then all bets are off. I bet we have to transport everything as a category A. So you can feel confident that it is a category B, that it's not one of the other strains, because the CDC is keeping a real good eye on that. They
Okay.
are definitely making sure it's just this one strain.
I have a
Okay.
question. If it is
Yeah. Yeah. So, and because you are exclusive, yes, you can pick it up with just the bio bags. We're asking them to double bag. And that's it. Another important thing is that we're trying to teach more and more biosafety, that in the specimen collection part itself, that they disinfect multiple times, that they disinfect the tube before they put the label on it. They disinfect the bag after they put the specimen in the bag. They disinfect the second bag after they put it in the second bag. But I know that there are facilities out there that are not doing that. So
Right.
I don't know. You help me with that training, that if you know, look at your contract, make sure that it says that all specimens will be double bagged and disinfected on the outside bags. You know, you could do stuff like that, and then send reminders to all your clients. I do that. I would send reminders every quarter or something like that.
I think you guys can go.
So that's a you know, something you can share with Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are you gonna have somebody pick up some boxes so we can have them here in the office? For a case like that, in case, you know, a
Yes.
dispatch does get.
I'd be happy to do that. I'll do both category A and category B. I will make it with insulation, like styrofoam, because more than likely those specimens have to be kept cold. So you'll want to make sure that they have, you know, not dry ice, a gel pack of some
Right.
sort with it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess my next question, I work with Nicole a lot here in the office.
Yeah.
So that's where these are coming from.
Okay.
So would you also send paperwork in case that facility doesn't have anything? This category A just popped up and they call us to transport it. I think we should have some sort of paperwork that facility could fill out. So we can transport it.
You know, and that's a good point with these little bags. How do they know? I know that's problematic.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we shouldn't make it a ruling that each bag has something like this on the outside too.
Yeah, that would be great, because then they could fill that paperwork out when the driver gets there, you know, and it may take a little bit of time, but I'd rather it take them time than not be able to transport the sample.
Right. I mean, because you pick up from so many different places.
Right.
How do you know? How can you keep track of where they go to?
Yeah.
Whereas you have something really obvious like this, because
Yeah.
really all those bags have are the requisition on the inside, right? And you almost have to open up the requisition with the patient information on it to, yeah.
Usually when they call dispatch, they'll give them the information and then we put it in our system and then the driver has it. But my biggest concern is the ones that absolutely have to have a box like category A. Like if that one that I went to, if that would have turned out to be a category A, like they said it was going to be, they had no paperwork, no box, no nothing.
Well, yeah, that's the other good reason you rejected it, because category A, no matter if it's by ground or air, has to have what's called a shipper's declaration.
Right.
And shipper's declarations are so important. In fact, FedEx, if one little typo is on this shipper's declaration, it's the one with the red candy stripes. Yeah. Then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, then it has the FedEx rejects it. So you have the same capability. If they don't have that paperwork, then, or they don't have complete addresses written on here, you can reject it.
Yeah.
So, that's the important part. So yeah, that's why you rejected it. They have to have that paperwork. And you know what? They know that that paperwork is on my website. They can get in and see, pull that lab can pull that off of the website. So you were unfortunately dealing with somebody who's never been trained, even if it was Pete. Pete is a wonderful person. He's never been trained in packaging and shipping.
Yeah. So if we had a copy of that to where we can run a few copies off to put with the boxes in case we get a situation like that, you know, dispatch can say, stop at the office, grab this box, grab this piece of paper. And then those questions that dispatch can ask the caller, okay, do you have the proper packaging? If they say no, then we can send it and we can still get it delivered. Well,
you can also tell them that you can pull it off the MPHL website. Let me actually show you that. See if I can screen 3. Let me show you how that works. So okay, I have to just find my way about here. Okay, and then I'll move. So now, do you see my Zoom page here?
Yes.
Okay, let me go to our nphl.org. Just type that into the browser. And here's our menu on the left side.
Oh, no, I see you. I don't see where you're going on your
okay. Yeah. Well, then share screen. I wonder why it didn't share it. Okay. Now do you see it now? And not me?
Yes. Well, I see you in the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So here is our website. This is what we call our home page with all the hot topics, but this is our menu. And here in our menu under specimen packaging and shipping.
Oh, okay.
You click there and here's all our forms we ask our laboratories. So for category B, go to ground category B shipping.
Okay.
For category A, go to ground category A. Let's see what that looks like. It's I don't know where it's at. I got so many screens up. It's
okay. No problem.
Nuts. Hold on.
Look, if you're like us, we go through so many different apps and everything back and forth. It's hard to keep them all straight.
Yeah. Okay, open. Well, let me retype that. So ground category A, here we go. Now it's opening up, but can you see that I might have to change my screen again?
I can go to my tablet.
Oh no, here.
Got it.
Oh, it's still not opening up. This is weird.
Maybe it's because we're on Zoom.
Well,
but-
it shouldn't be, yeah. Oh. Um, ground shippers, that's the checklist, and then ground shippers declaration, Lincoln and Omaha only,
Okay.
because everybody else does. Well, I'm going to get out of here because I think this is a problem with my browser.
Okay.
So hold on. Yeah, they're just having problems. Oh. Okay, let me go to a different browser.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna get out of there. Oops, subtitles. Okay, let's try once again. You know what? My browsers are not opening. So there, I might have to shut my computer down. But yeah, you can play with it yourself and look with it, but I'll send some with you too. So
Okay.
you know exactly what you need.
Okay, absolutely. And then are they gonna have the cylinders in the box? Is that all gonna be ready to go in just one box or?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. I really appreciate your help on that because I know that was one of our big concerns that heck, if this happens again, we don't have nothing. We
Yeah.
don't have anything to help.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
All right.
I know.
Well, I think that's all I had.
Okay, sounds great. And we'll go from, Nicole, I can share one other thing with you that, this bit about like monkeypox and COVIDs, are they, do they put it in a bag, or since you're exclusive, I mean a box, or do they, being an exclusive courier, are you allowed to just pick up the baggie? I'll be honest with you, I have been telling everybody, because of what DOT says, that it should be in a box. So anybody outside Lincoln and Omaha, and I know you have clients that you pick up from outside of Lincoln, Omaha. Let's say it's Seward, or let's say it's Grand Island or Kearney, but I still make them do boxes.
Okay.
Okay, because I just think with that kind of distance that we do, if you get just the baggies, and I don't know, you probably don't know if they're for COVID or for, you know what, I'd recommend it, even if it's cultures or, oh, how can I'll show you some pics to recognize it in bags if it's one of those two. And you could even ask them, what are these for? I don't want you digging into the requisition to, look at the patient's name and that, but if it's an issue with one particular lab, call me and I'll talk to them.
All right.
So the part about picking up in a baggie, just that secondary container or a double bag, I'm only allowing that for Lincoln, Omaha. That is it.
Okay. All right. I will relay that to Nicole. She has to step out with a phone
Okay.
call.
Oh,
But
okay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, you're fine. I'll relay that to Nicole, and
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else.
No, I can't think of anything else. Well, now that I've practiced here, it will probably take the afternoon one. It'll be much smoother.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem. You did great.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you later, Karen.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.